So that last chapter was pretty heavy, but we are now on the final chapter, chapter 21 of Sketches. Do I look okay? I asked Becca nervously. You look fine. Very nice. But do I look like an artist? Becca laughed. Do you have enough piercings and tattoos? I groaned. I don't have any tattoos, and the only parts I have pierced are my ears. She laughed. Don't worry about it. I have enough piercings for both of us, and I just got a new tattoo. She rolled up her sleeve to show off the new artwork, a beautiful design that went all around her upper arm. I was guessing she'd drawn it herself. It's nice, but I don't think I'll ever get a tattoo. Probably smart. My mother says she remembers when getting a tattoo was a sign of rebellion, not conformity. What exactly does that mean? I asked. It means don't get a tattoo unless you really want one. It's not about keeping up with your friends or looking like an artist or being anybody but yourself, she explained. And tonight is all about the art, and your painting is going to wow them. So you ready? I guess. Then take a deep breath and let's go. Becca pulled back the curtain that separated the back room from the gallery, and we stepped through. All around us on the walls were paintings. Most of them were Becca's, and I was familiar with a lot of them. That didn't mean I wasn't impressed or disturbed. Becca said it was hard to do one without the other. There were also paintings by other artists, and of course, my painting. It was hanging on its own. Becca said it was in a very, very good location in the gallery. Interspersed among the paintings were pieces of abstract sculpture. They were made of old computers and TV sets, scraps of metal, fast food wrappers and containers, and broken Barbie dolls. All things that had been found in the garbage. They were welded and glued together in strange and bizarre patterns and combinations. The program for the night called them avant-garde, street-inspired art that makes a poignant statement about the disposability of humans and their possessions. I just thought that they were kind of strange, and not really art. But what did I know? I didn't even have any piercings, and my hair wasn't pink. There was a buzz of conversation in the room as more and more people filtered in. They were young, old, men, women, couples, singles, groups, well-dressed, strangely clothed. They were everything and everybody. I couldn't help wondering what would happen if somebody took a big old glue gun and stuck all the people together in a piece of avant-garde art. I don't know if it would look any good, but it would probably have impressed some people. Moving among the crowd were waitresses carrying trays holding tiny pieces of cheese and tiny sandwiches, and mini sausages and pint-sized glasses of white wine. Everything was tiny. It was like they were trying to feed a whole bunch of leprechauns. Looks like a good turnout, Becca said. There are a lot of people, I said. The more people who come, the more they are willing to spend, and the more paintings get sold. Do you think mine's going to sell? I'd bet money on it. But I do have one suggestion. Don't stand by your painting. Why not? Because other people are going to be standing there talking about it, and while some of them will like it tremendously, some will really, really not like it at all. Why wouldn't they like it? Because that's the way it is. If they were showing the Mona Lisa here tonight, there'd be at least 3 people who would think it's a piece of garbage. You'll save yourself a lot of irritation if you don't stand there to hear those 3 stupid people talk. If you want, I'll stay in the kitchen for the whole evening, I offered. Becca, darling! A woman screamed from the far side of the gallery. She waved her hand in the air, barged through the people, and came towards us. She was wearing tight pants, a low-cut top, hair piling up to the sky, and lots of jewelry. My agent, Becca said. You have an agent? Yeah, and if you're not careful, you'll wind up with her as your agent too. How are you, darling? She threw her arms around Becca and gave her a kiss on both cheeks. I'm good, Becca said. Excellent, this is a wonderful night. Wonderful. I hope so. We have so much to discuss. I will leave you 2 to talk, I suggested. Thank you, young lady. And would you be a dear and bring me a drink? She's not a waitress, Becca said. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I'll catch up to you, Becca said. And remember to stay away from your painting, Dana. Dana? Are you Dana? the agent asked. I nodded. We simply have to talk. Becca has told me all about you. Right after Becca and I finish up our discussion, I'll come track you down. Okay, sure. Somehow being tracked down by her didn't sound like something I really wanted. Maybe it wasn't too late to get her a drink and pretend I really was a waitress. I wandered off into the crowd. I didn't know if anybody was actually going to buy anything, but they certainly did seem to be enjoying themselves. They were eating miniature food, drinking tiny drinks, talking and laughing. I wished I had somebody to laugh with and talk to, and just then the door opened, and Ashley and Brent and Gizmo and Nikki walked in. I rushed over. It's so great to see you all, I exclaimed. I'm so glad you could come. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Brent said, giving me a hug. You know art is my life. Yeah, right. So tell me about your life, I said. How are things going? We're doing amazing. You have to come and see our new apartment, Ashley said. You got it? I exclaimed. 2 bedrooms above a store on Queen Street. That's amazing. That's wonderful. And how about Pumpkin? How's she doing? Ashley had promised that as soon as they had an apartment, Pumpkin wouldn't be homeless either. I can't wait to see her again. You probably won't recognize her, Brent said. Why not? Because Ashley's been feeding her so much the cat's gotten fat, he said. She has put on a little weight, Ashley admitted. A little? Brent questioned. She's been spoiling that animal. Pumpkin deserves to be spoiled. I'm making up for the years she wasn't treated right. If you're not careful, you're going to kill her with kindness, Brent said. Poor cat's so overweight she's a candidate for a cat cardiac arrest. She's just pleasantly plump, and I'm going to keep on spoiling her. Why shouldn't I? She's my baby. Mine and Dana's. And how is business? I asked Brent. Couldn't be better. Me and the Giz here sold 3 scooters last week. That's 2 months' rent with enough left over to buy pieces for 3 more scooters. I'm so proud of you both. So when are you coming over to see our place? Brent asked. She'll have to check to make sure she's allowed, Nikki said. She's right. I have to ask permission before I go anywhere, I said. From your foster parents? Brent asked. Them and the social worker. My social worker. They watch over me pretty carefully. Okay, that's good, I guess. How are things going? Ashley asked. Okay. They've been foster parents for a long time, so they know what they're doing, I said. And they're treating you okay? Brent said. Yeah, they're nice people. 'Cause if they're not treating you right, you know you've got a place to stay. If things aren't going well, she can talk to her social worker, Nikki pointed out. She's not going to be running anywhere, right? Right, I said. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to be in foster care for too much longer. I might be going home to be with my sister. And your mother too, right? Ashley asked. I nodded. She's there. And your stepfather is gone now? Brent asked. Gone forever. He'd been arrested, I explained, and the deal was that when he was eventually let out, he'd have to live someplace else. He wasn't even allowed near the house. That was probably a good thing, because my mother said she'd kill him if she ever saw him again. But if he's gone, why don't you just go home now? Brent asked. I'd asked myself that same question hundreds of times, and each time I got the same answer. I'm not ready. Not yet. But maybe soon. I've been home for visits, and I talk to my mother and sister on the phone all the time. But not yet. I didn't want to talk more about any of that. I'm just so glad that things are working out so well for all of you. Couldn't be better, Brent said. We have a place to live, and our business is up and running. Thanks to Nikki's help, Ashley said. I didn't do much, Nikki said. She helped get us a government grant to buy the materials to set up our business, Gizmo explained. All part of the job, she said. Brent looked around. What does the hard-working man have to do to get something to eat around here? There's food, right? I was promised there would be food. There's food, I reassured him. Miniature food, but it was food. Enough talk, it's time to chow down. Brent and Gizmo spotted one of the waitresses circling on the far side of the room and made a beeline in her direction. Maybe I'd better just keep an eye on the 2 of them so they don't eat everything in sight, Ashley said, smiling, and she headed off to join the boys. I'm so glad they came, I told Nikki. I love them so much. I'm so glad everything is working out for them. It wouldn't be right for me to be safe if they were still out there on the streets. They're going to make it, Nikki said. Are things really going well for you? As good as they can. Sometimes it's tough. But you are getting through it? Trying to. And your mother, is she trying too? I nodded. Really hard. It's all right that you're still angry at her. I was never angry at... I stopped myself mid-sentence. I'm not as angry as I was. Anger is natural, but try to remember, she was a victim too. Have you been seeing your mother and sister often? A few times a week. I even slept at home last Saturday. And how did that go? It wasn't easy. I hardly slept at all. I just didn't feel safe being in my room again. Nikki nodded knowingly. Did you talk to your social worker about it? A little bit. It sounds like those are the sorts of things that you should expect. Be patient with yourself, and don't be too proud to ask for help, she said. I don't know what I would have done without your help. She smiled. I didn't do that much. Yes, you did. Without you, none of this would have happened for any of us. Nikki shook her head. I just helped a bit. Helped with the outline, the rough draft, the sketch. Filling in the painting with color and making it come to life, that's up to you. I just hope I can do it, I said. You can. Just remember, there are people who care. She paused. People like that, she said, glancing over my shoulder. I turned around. It was my mother. She had told me she would come, but it still surprised me to see her there. This part of a world that I'd come to know, not the world where she and I knew each other. She really does care for you, Nikki said. You have to learn that forgiving is different from forgetting. I don't mean just forgiving your mother, but yourself. Nikki reached over and put a hand on my shoulder, and it almost felt like some of her strength, some of her wisdom rushed into me. I'm going to look at the artwork now, Nikki said. I'll talk to you later. Nikki walked away, leaving me alone in the crowd. I looked over to where my mother stood. She was alone in the crowd, too. She still hadn't seen me. She looked anxious, unsure of herself, scared, alone. I knew all those feelings from the inside. She looked over and saw me, and our eyes met. She smiled, and I smiled back. Suddenly, she didn't look so scared or alone, and suddenly I didn't feel so scared or alone either.